Good morning.
Please welcome to the stage Chairman Steve Downey.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the annual meeting. For our meeting finale, we decided to order a little bit of cold weather for everybody. So there's a little bit of snow flurries out there and, just some nice cold weather to get us excited about winter again, no matter how short-lived it really is. So, but enjoy it while it's out there. The recurring comment that I've heard throughout this entire program over the last 2.5 days has been people can't believe how well attended, the meeting has been. And even looking out today, I mean, this is a nice turnout for an early Friday morning after, 2 evenings of late dinners and probably a few too many hours in the bar. But everybody looks bright and shiny out this morning, so appreciate you all being here. But again, given the attendance we've had, I don't know if it's just misery loves company or, what's happening. I think people were a little surprised, again, as I said, that, we've had the attendance we've had. But quite frankly, whether it's boom or bust, your association remains strong and we're here to serve you. And it really makes us feel good when we see this type of attendance, even in the down market that we're currently experiencing. Poor public policy and regulation, poor regulation doesn't know economic boundaries, but unfortunately we all do. And, we certainly have to be ready to take care of those type of things and issues, regardless of the economic climate or cycle we are in. And we're certainly here to do that for you. As I said yesterday, I do want to thank our sponsors. Again, without them, this program could not happen. And thank all the members that have turned out for the conference. And again, as I said yesterday, when it comes time to contract for services, when it comes time to do something in your business, please think about your fellow OOGA members. Please think about the folks that sponsor, because that makes us all so much stronger when we do that. So please keep that in mind. I'll just say a couple housekeeping things again. Emergency exits are in the back. Also, please put your phones on silent or vibrate so as not to interrupt the speakers. I think that's important. One other thing, another PSA, don't forget to set your clocks forward tomorrow night. I know everybody enjoys losing an hour of sleep, so that'll be a lot of fun. This morning's business session is sponsored by Diversified Gas and Oil. Ben Sullivan is here, Executive Vice President and General Counsel of Diversified, and I'll turn it over to him now.
Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Ben. I've been around in the oil and gas industry for almost 20 years now. I've done a lot of work throughout Appalachia, but unfortunately, not a lot of work recently in Ohio. So I'm based in Charleston with Diversified. Tell you a little bit about myself and a little bit about our company. Even though the company's name is a little bit new, we've actually been around quite a while. So based in Charleston, our corporate headquarters is in Birmingham, Alabama, but the company was actually founded in 2001, and we've grown really exponentially over the last 3 years. Done a lot of deals with folks in the state of Ohio and folks throughout the rest of Appalachia. See a lot of friends here. I see Mr. Rotruck, Mr. Ellswick, Steve, others. So it's good to be here with friends. It's good to be here with some new folks as well. And I've got to tell you, I'm the Vice President of West Virginia OOGA, and we had our winter meeting a few weeks ago and had about 400 attendees, which I thought was good, and it was very good for West Virginia. It was actually phenomenal. But when Matt and his staff told me that you'll have reached 700 folks at this meeting, it's just totally amazing, and it's a real testament to the association and the staff's work and the board's work and the membership and the good work going on here in the state. So I commend you on a job that's well done. I mean, that's just phenomenal. I would give you a couple of updates from your neighbor state of West Virginia. One, the legislative session, as some of the lobbyists in the room know, is coming to an end in West Virginia tomorrow. We've had pretty good success this year, even in an election year, so the governor's up. A fair amount of the legislature is up for re-election as well. We have managed to get the legislature to pass House Bill 4090, which is helping our conventional producers in the state of West Virginia with the severance tax reduction on marginal wells. So it's actually dropping the severance tax from 5% to 2.5%, and then funding an abandoned well plugging fund for the state. And I've been following our COO, Brad Gray, who many of you know, who's on the board of trustees of OOGA, has been talking with me a lot, and I've been talking with others here about the good work that the state has done in building up your plugging fund, and some of the governor's thoughts on maybe using some of those funds to for other purposes. But I would say you're certainly in a very good spot compared with your peers throughout Appalachia. So congratulations on a job well done there. That bill is going to the governor, and he is committed to sign it. So that's excellent on a number of fronts. And then secondly, this was a pet project of mine, and the staff of West Virginia OOGA has done a really good job. And I would suggest that Matt and his team look at this as well. When you're driving down the interstates in Ohio, particularly in the southeast, you'll see a lot of Friends of Coal license plates. So actual vanity plates, the black plates or white plates. In West Virginia, we've managed to have the West Virginia DMV and the legislature approve of a natural gas style license plate. It's blue, it has a little flame. It says Natural Gas Fueling America or something to that effect. And it's just a simple way to show the folks in our state and other states that we're in their community. And I would encourage you to look at it. It's really, again, a very simple and effective way to get the message out, and it costs very little. You can have your members and companies put the plates on their trucks. So just a few more words about Diversified. We have about 200 employees in the state of Ohio, big regional office in Canton. A couple of our folks are here today. We have our land teams, our accounting teams based in Canton. We're growing. We're growing in Canton. We're growing in the eastern part of this state in our field offices, and growing throughout Appalachia. We have about 950 folks throughout Appalachia. We have almost 7,000 wells in the state of Ohio, most of them conventional, but we do have a fair number of Utica horizontal wells, fair number in terms of production volumes that we purchased in a bankruptcy from Edgemark last year. So Washington and Monroe counties, which is a nice little asset for us, and about 1,000 miles of pipe. So we continue to look. We're growing employee-wise. We're growing, looking for acquisitions inside of Ohio, inside of Appalachia, and then outside of Appalachia as well. We're based on the London Stock Exchange, which gives us a couple of things. One, and this may be counterintuitive, but it does allow us to be, I would say, a step ahead of some of our United States publicly listed companies that are our peers in terms of environmental and sustainability issues, because the investors in London and Europe are hugely engaged and have been for a number of years on sustainability. So when we see a lot of companies talking about sustainability, it's something we've been dealing with and working with for quite some time. And then secondly, it gives us access to a different investor pool that is interested in long-lived, stable assets, as opposed to some of our peers in the United States, which are doing a terrific job. Certainly their stock and our stock's under pressure, but a little bit of a different investor base. So it's an interesting model. We pay a steady dividend. The investors are happy, and it's worked thus far very well. So with that, thank you for having me. Thank you from the state of West Virginia. Thank you to Matt for doing a terrific job. And I would like to now move into some introductions. I'd like to introduce Greg Mason, who is the chair of the Ohio Oil and Gas Energy Education Program. Now, Greg has been an independent producer in Ohio for about 40 years. He has all kinds of experience in upstream and downstream development throughout Appalachia, so not just in Ohio. Many of you know Greg. He graduated with a Bachelor's of Science from Kent State. This is a BS degree, and I changed it in Penn because I thought that would be offensive to Greg. So he does have a Bachelor of Science degree from Kent State, and I'm reading prepared remarks. I apologize. He's a member of the Ohio Geological Society, the American Association of Petroleum Geologists, and of course, OOGA. He is currently serving as a Board of Trustee member for OOGA, and is the chairman of the operating committee of the Ohio Energy Education Program. So with that, please welcome Greg to provide the program's annual report.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for getting up so early in the morning. I think you should all give yourself a pat on the back. Without you, we wouldn't have rubbing alcohol. Without rubbing alcohol, we wouldn't have hand sanitizer. And without hand sanitizer, we'd all have coronavirus, right? So I'd like to start off by introducing our staff. They're a terrific group of individuals, and they're very talented. Put up this great slideshow here. Kat Watkins, if you could stand up. Kennedy Copeland. Ann Adkins. And Sean Toy. Give them a hand. The program wouldn't be what it is without their diligent help, okay? So with that, I'm going to move into some presentations for board service. Start with Ron Grosjean. Ron Grosjean has been with the board for 12 years. He is instrumental in running our fire safety training in Worcester. If you're familiar with that program, I think last year we were at 1,200 firefighters trained on how to fight oil and gas well fires. We now have he was instrumental in getting us a horizontal type wellhead so that we can train them on that. And if I'd like to congratulate Mr. Ron Grosjean for his years of service as he moves off of the operating committee board. Terrific. Drop of oil here, representative of the industry and the Ohio Oil and Gas Energy Education Program. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot to all of you. We got a great operation over there at Albuquerque, and I think that if you get a chance to see it, our safety and training and fire training is really above, maybe the best in the United States. We got a really good operation there, and I hope you all get to see it sometime. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Ron. Ron really does a terrific job with that fire training, and he's been instrumental in developing the program that we have and keeping the facilities up to date. And next on our list is someone who doesn't really need any introduction. You all know Sarah Tipka. She's been with the program before there was a program. Education committee, also a producer. Sarah Tipka, I'd like to thank you very much for your 23 years of service on this board, or around the board. So.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. If I have this big oil drop, does that mean the prices of oil will go up? Do I just rub its belly like...
Yeah, it'll go up or down.
Good, all right. I wanted to say thank you. I'm a conventional producer and we're a dying breed, but I wanted to have a shout out to my fellow conventional oil and gas producers for the support you've given OOGA for all these years. So give yourself a big round of applause. We couldn't do it without you. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Sarah.
All right, I won't hug you because I don't want to give you coronavirus. Not that I have it.
Get some
All right.
hand sanitizer.
Yes, all right, thank you. Thank you, thank you.
You need to find a better place to stand. It's about to kill me up here. Um, I'm going to finish with this. As many of you know, our executive director has moved on. Rhonda Rita actually took this program 23 years ago with a budget of nothing and has built a program to what it is today. And I want to thank her very much for her hard work. It's an award-winning program. It's recognized nationally. She's done a lot of terrific work here. And her passion for the program and her energy that she has put in this program to build it to be what it is are probably second to none. At this time, Rhonda couldn't be here. She had other obligations, and she sincerely did not want a tribute. But at this time, I would like to consider that we give her a round of applause for her years of service. And thank you very much.
All right, I'm back. It is my distinct pleasure to introduce the preferred vendor panel. And the preferred vendor panel is going to talk today about how you become a preferred plugging vendor for the state of Ohio. And I've actually had a number of attorneys, so I'm an attorney, a number of attorneys and service contractors in other states call me and ask about Ohio's program, of which I am not qualified to give them advice. So they wanted to become vendors and start service companies to get in on the huge plugging fund that you have here and some of the other states' plugging funds. So we are going to hear from some experts today. Matt is going to moderate this discussion, which I think will be hugely valuable and helpful. Even with prices down so low, a lot of good environmental work and plugging work is going to be taking place, and it's certainly well funded. So I will introduce the three gentlemen, and then Matt will moderate. First, we have Tony Jesko. I was going to call Tony Anthony, and he quickly corrected me. So Tony is a shareholder of Dickey McCamey law firm and a member of the firm's energy and real estate group and practice area. He practices in all areas of oil and gas law with a particular emphasis on litigation, administrative law, statutory unitizations and appeals, transactional work, and title work. We also have Rick Grady with Voyer Sater, certainly a preeminent firm in the state. Rick is a construction lawyer based here in Columbus who works on projects not just in Ohio and throughout the U.S., but also internationally. He advises owners and developers, construction managers, and others on numerous construction issues throughout many, many different jurisdictions. He works with his clients on risk mitigation and works in construction trailers in Ohio, throughout Appalachia, downtown Los Angeles, as well as rural locations throughout the world, including Brazil, which I'm sure is a fascinating experience. He drafts contracts in the construction industry and is really cradle to grave. So he helps set up the construction contracts and projects, helps manage issues throughout the projects, and then also handles arbitration and litigation issues post-construction. And last and certainly not least, we have Tim McKean with Steptoe & Johnson, very fine firm, all three fine firms. Tim focuses his practice on oil and gas issues throughout Appalachia and is a member of the AAPL of Ohio and is the author of the AAPL's article on comparative law in Ohio and is a frequent speaker at industry events throughout the states of Appalachia and beyond. So with that, I would like to welcome these guys and Matt, our moderator.
Thanks, Bud. Appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Yeah. I'll just sit in order. Yeah, Tim's over here. Thanks, Ben. Well, just to kind of give folks a little background, and I won't spend too much time talking, and really what I want to do here is have some attorneys who have been looking at this to really kind of educate our membership on navigating the becoming a preferred vendor for the plugging orphan well plugging program, and some challenges that they would like to talk through with the group. But I think that as we talk about plugging orphan wells in Ohio, one, it is a growing conversation across the nation. I don't care when I talk to membership, it doesn't matter how big you are or how small your company might be. Everybody agrees that plugging orphan wells is something that this industry should be focused on, and this association is. We've been working with ODNR on some challenges out there, and we wanted to pull this panel together to essentially educate our membership and be here to answer questions, because I know ODNR and DSA cannot really do that for a state contract. They can't necessarily answer those questions to help you get through that just because it's simply a state contract. So I'm thankful for our panelists. They put in a lot of hard work to pull this together, and really I'm just going to turn it over to Tim for his portion of the program.
Okay, well, thank you, Matt. I greatly appreciate it, and certainly happy to be here with you all this morning. We each kind of split up the RFP for the Orphan Well program and are going to talk a little bit about some various sections of that. We'll start with perhaps the most important and maybe least interesting. I don't know if my slides are clicked. Okay. We'll see if we can move those slides on here. But the first thing we'll get to is how you actually get to the document that you need to do this program, right? So that's an important part of this. And so we're taking you in all the way from the ohio.gov website. So nice little winter scene of our beautiful state there, right? And so we have the direct link to this, and I think the slides will be shared later in terms of you'll be able to get the direct link to where the actual RFP is. But if you go in just through the ohio.gov site, it looks kind of like this from the outside. Type in procurement. You'll see state procurement there on the bottom. You go from there to search for bid opportunities, and the winning number is DNR 110 for this, and you search for that right there like that. And again, these slides are just here so you can walk through and just kind of have an idea, because when you do click on that and you click on it right there, you get this page. And when we first all clicked on this page, we were kind of joking that it's like, where's the format on this? But the form's right there in the where the arrow points to. One of our good associates at Steptoe & Johnson found it pretty easily for me, and but all of us were joking about how it was a little challenging to find, but there it is right there. Or even easier, you just click right there. That's the website address, and so we'll have that in the slide. So we thought it'd be worth just kind of walking through that as a start to get things moving, and then I'll come back a little bit later and cover my sections, but I'm going to turn it over to Rick, who's going to talk about his part of the RFP.
So this morning, when I had my second cup of coffee, my wife said, "Now, what's this conference about?" I said, "It's Oil and Gas Association annual conference. It's a bunch of energy folks and energy attorneys." She said, "Well, you're not an energy attorney. What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, as you know, I'm a construction attorney, and I deal with public contracts on quite a regular basis. That includes representing, in some cases, public entities, and a lot of times on behalf of contractors. And I started my career doing a lot of public works work, and I am on the fringes in the energy industry, work with some of my partners and colleagues at Voorhees on midstream projects, transmission lines, other things like that, sometimes compressor stations and power generation facilities. So that's my perspective. My partner Greg Russell asked me to help out, and I was certainly willing to do so, because I know there's a lot of wonderful people here that are involved in all aspects of the energy industry. My main points today include risk management, and really the core of the document that we'll look at. I'll highlight some of the typical provisions that when either your attorneys or your insurance brokers or other risk management folks really focus on. That's what I want to focus on, and hopefully we'll have some question and answer session that'll generate some other topics. Then also on the pre-qualification and procurement intricacies that we'll get into. I think this is an interesting program with a lot of opportunities. I think, as Tim and Matt said, it's very important everybody understands the reasons behind it, and I think once you roll up your sleeves and get into it, the procurement process is fairly straightforward. it's easy to say, but we'll get into the details on that. So really quick, the structure of the RFP, I'll talk briefly about attachment 2. There's 18 points that Tony will get into more on the program, on the details and really the meat and potatoes, so to speak, on the bid. But really the first stage is the pre-qualification, being qualified to be part of the program. And then after that, once an offeror is in the program, the DNR puts out, and the division puts out a package for prospective bids. But we'll start with the first format, and like I said, Tony will get into more of the specifics. But one point, and there's a lot of misconceptions and notions about the affirmative action program in government contracting, but it's a fairly straightforward process. Once the offeror, if they're not already, has an affirmative action plan in place. And the main policy points here is that this is a policies and procedures requirement, and there's certainly policies that have to be in place, and then a good faith efforts in terms of hiring. But this is not a program where there's specific set-asides or bid credits and similar requirements like that. I know that sometimes these programs, and this is certainly an evolving topic in all sorts of government contracts, but it's a relatively straightforward process, but it's just a matter of putting in the time to get the proper program in place as a threshold matter. Moving to the terms and conditions, and again, this is kind of goes back, and I apologize, nobody wants to read insurance requirements in detail on a screen, let alone on their desk, but I would suspect that your risk management folks and insurance brokers would be curious if somebody is interested in getting to well plugging. I'll say as a general matter, these are very straightforward, even-handed requirements compared to what I've seen in other government contracts and private works. The commercial general liability minimum limit is $2 million. There's no umbrella or excess requirement. Standard automobile coverage, and the workers' comp requirements are unique in Ohio, and Ohio has what I would call a monopolistic system, all governed by the Ohio Bureau of Workers' Compensation. There's a self-insured possibility for certain providers. Otherwise, it's a fairly rigorous BWC process, but it's something that your risk management folks certainly know well. And for these particular contracts, it's simply a matter of providing certification. Move on to some of the other major topics that I typically see people when they look at warranties. Not exactly a major topic, obviously, for well plugging, and certainly from a risk management perspective, it's not a major concern, and it's not an onerous warranty provision in this contract. And my understanding is that there's obviously a lot of equipment involved in well plugging, but there's no permanent equipment that stays on site, for example. So it's a fairly standard warranty provision, and the common law warranty. The common law warranty considerations for this type of work are not a major risk factor in my view. Also on the risk factor, something that people often look at, liquidated damages provisions. I'll talk more about the change orders, and we'll get into, I assume in the Q&A, some of the change factors, but there's an actual damages provision, which is fairly standard in government contracts. The actual LD rate, 1% of the value of the order for delay, but again, there's often changed circumstances. As a construction attorney, that's what keeps a lot of us in business and helping negotiate change provisions. I think there's a lot of, again, even-handed provisions here for change clauses, which is really what usually leads to liquidated damages claims. So here's the heart of the change order provisions for these contracts, and from speaking with a couple of experienced companies and their leaders in this type of work, and based on my litigation over various change order provisions in the private and public sector, these are very reasonable, very I guess practical is what I would say. There's two basic ways that a change order can come about in a construction contract. There's clear owner-directed changes, and then there's, from the other side, the contractor discovers differing site conditions or errors and omissions in the plans and specifications. Those are, you know, I guess the typical fact pattern as a construction lawyer. These provisions, I've seen change order provisions run on for 3 pages, and very onerous notice provisions, very onerous backup required right away. That is not the case here. Everybody acknowledges the possibility for changes, and here the state and the inspector with prior or with appropriate approval from supervision can issue a field order. And in these contracts, the economic terms are fairly straightforward because these are quantities bids on unit rates, and there's lump sum portions as well. The main takeaway from these provisions is that if there's a change condition, the contractor should provide notice within 5 business days. And again, it's not an onerous backup heavy notice provision. It's simply providing written notice that there are some change conditions, and then a negotiation ensues. And ultimately, I'll say, with the field orders, the concept there is that it's not expressly stated in here, but it's certainly supported by the law and a common industry practice that things are tracked on a T&M basis, time and materials basis, and if all goes well, those are wrapped up into a bilateral change order. Again, a major topic that risk management and insurance and attorneys look at is what's the limitation of liability, what's the indemnity provision. Ohio law governs very, very specifically all construction contracts, and these contracts would fall within that. No party can impose on another party liability for its own negligence or its own willful misconduct, and that's certainly consistent here. There's ways to push the envelope, so to speak, and still keep it within the letter of the law. This indemnity provision does not do that. I think that most insurance professionals and counsel would agree that this is a very straightforward indemnity provision. The limitation of liability is a little bit unique, I would say, but it's certainly not onerous from a contractor's perspective, and it doesn't expose contractors to, I guess I would say, inordinate risk. I think that moves into Tony's. Back to all right.
My introduction was just a precursor, so now we get the full start of my slides here. So again, just to take a step back, I think the important thing to remember with this whole process is that the contract, the RFP that you'll get when you click on that link, I mean, it is sizable. It's a printout of it. You know, it's going to take a little bit of time to get through, but it is certainly doable, and I think that's one of the most important things we can convey up here on the panel. And certainly there's money there in the fund, as we know, we've talked about and been written about and all those types of things. So I think that's why one of the reasons we all agreed to do this is just because of the importance of the program and how much help it can be to the state and our industry. And certainly as a native of Belmont County, Ohio, and still living there, it's just, this industry's been so beneficial to our area, and you know, we'll do anything we can to keep it moving, as I know you all do here in this room. So we'll talk a little bit about some of these requirements. These are a little bit easier in terms of it's basically a lot of just following along what is asked for in the RFP, but we'll highlight a few things in these slides that I'm going to talk about just to kind of get you going. And some of these are some of the starting things and things as simple as the cover letter. Well, in this instance, you have to fill out a cover letter, and it has to contain very specific terms. And again, you can go through and just look at the actual contract itself, the RFP itself, and it'll have those terms in there. But we've highlighted a few of them, which is part of this section 1 of this RFP. And so obviously it's, as I'm looking at the right-hand part of the slide there, the cover letter requirements, standard business letters, those types of things, has to be signed by an authorized representative. I mean, nothing's really earth-shattering in any of these things. You know, you do have to talk about your legal structure. Are you an Ohio corporation? Are you an Ohio LLC? That type of thing. Title of the person who prepared the proposal. List of all your subcontractors with a letter from each subcontractor with specific inclusions required. And so all that's specifically outlined in the RFP itself. You just have to read through it and take your time to go through it and just make sure you're checking all the boxes. I will note there in one of those bullet points that there's a few specific statements that you have to follow in the cover letter. and some of those are pretty straightforward, and they're all listed out in this point one, but a couple of them I'll call your attention to that I think are interesting. And one is just that you meet all the requirements of this RFP, so that's pretty straightforward. I do enjoy letter H, which is a statement that the offerer, which is you guys, does not assume that there will be an opportunity to negotiate any aspect of this proposal. So, this is a state contract. It's not really negotiable, okay? So, the state's not going to change its contract just for one specific person or group, and so, we sort of know that going in. So you have to take it as it is, and that's an important part to know about this. And there's a lot of things that you have to fill out. One of the other things is talking about that you won't substitute your any of your contractors unless it's for a reason that is outside of your control, such as that the candidate's no longer employed with the contractor or something like that. So all that's laid out for you here in these documents. We won't belabor it to read all the different parts to you, but just try to pick out a few of the highlights as we go through there. One thing that I noticed as well that's important is you have to be licensed to do business in the state of Ohio, which I don't think that should be too shocking to anyone. But if you're from West Virginia or Pennsylvania and you think, oh, maybe we could be a good candidate to plug some of these wells, you got to make sure you're licensed to do business in the state of Ohio, which is all pretty straightforward to do all those types of things. So that's a little bit about the cover letter. Again, there's more stuff than just that, but those are some of the highlights, some of the stuff that you're going to need to include as you fill out this process. And I think the way to do it is just to print it all out and just go through and check each one off as you go through each little sub-letter of the contract. And having talked to a couple of people that have successfully filled it out, it's taken them a couple of business days to get through it. So it does take some time, but it is certainly doable. And again, there is money in the fund to make some money on this project, so it is potentially worth your time depending on what you can provide here. So I think that's a couple of the important points there. The certification is laid out there in very small type print, but a few things I'll highlight there is just that all personnel are citizens of the United States, or if not, have an executed valid I-9 form, those types of things. So a few things like that are in there, and I assume that's pretty standard for all state contracts. Nothing out of the ordinary there. Also keep in mind, though, if you're employing independent contractors, you do have a few additional requirements to fill out there as well. And just the same kind of thing that the state's going to require of you, it'll require of your independent contractors to confirm that they're doing the things that they're supposed to be doing in terms of their payroll and all those types of things, and paying their taxes and all those fun things that we look at for a state contract. But again, none of that is really, I don't think, anything that can't easily be overcome. It just takes a little bit of time to compile all that data, make sure you have the right information, and those types of things. So we'll just continue to move on here through the offerer profile and prior projects. So one of the things you have to do if you want to complete this RFP is talk about your capability, your capacity, your relevant working experience, which makes a lot of sense, right? You have to be able to show the state of Ohio that you have the capacity and the capability to do this type of work and the relevant experience that you have. And one of the reasons we think this panel is relevant for folks is that many of the folks in this room have those types of experiences on the operational side. Obviously, if you're Steptoe and Johnson or your Voorhees, we're not going to have a lot of good experience in plugging wells. But, if you've drilled wells, if you've plugged them in the past, you're going to be a lot better shape for that type of thing. And part of this application is just to fill out that information and just walk through it. And of course, it has all these fun attachments as well as part of this. This whole document's like 85 pages, and some of these pages are duplicative, or you may have to fill out more than one sheet. It's just sort of the sheet, but then also part of it is some of the hypothetical bidding as well. So don't be intimidated by the 85 pages. The actual work through it doesn't fill all of that. Some of it's just the instructions. So you go through and work through the offerer profile. Legal name, address, telephone number, all those types of things are specified. You got to talk a little bit about the financial stability of your company. You got to talk a little bit about the profile of your company, and then you have to talk about some of your prior projects. So that's an important part of this too. Again, what projects have you had in the past that are relevant to this type of work of doing some of this plugging work? And so we think that many of the folks in this room have some good experience there, and so hopefully you all are good candidates for that type of thing. Then the other thing you're going to need, of course, is some references about the type of work that you've done in the past. So have this minimum of 3 references as part of the RFP, and then you have to fill this out and give your references just like your filling out a resume or a job application, that type of thing. Talk about the projects that you've done. Again, same kind of thing. You have the capacity, the capability to do this type of work, and you get through that, fill that out. It's all, the forms are all laid out inside the RFP, and you can fill it out on the PDF. And it has to be related to work that's been completed in the last 5 years, for example. And again, you can see that reference form, which we put a little relevant part of it there, which comes from page 49 of the RFP. And again, offerors must reiterate how the experience being described substantiates their qualification for the work. So as you can kind of see, and we talked about a little bit in preparing for this panel, is a lot of the information is somewhat duplicative. You just have to restate it in different ways. I have the capacity to do it. Well, why do you have the capacity? Because we've done it before. Well, how have you done it before? Those types of things. So again, it's just a matter of filling it out, working through some of these details. The details about the contracting organizations, the duration of the involvement, all those types of things, the description of the nature of the experience are all required for appropriate evaluation. But again, that's nothing that, you know, Tim McKean as an attorney is saying you need to do this. This is information all taken directly from the RFP. So it's all right there if you just sort of read through it. So that's a little bit about the references. A couple other things to talk about briefly on my side of things here: the work plan, support requirements, conflict of interest statement. And I think Tony's going to talk a little bit about the staffing plan, so I don't want to talk through that too much, but a little bit, Section 8 about the work plan. Again, same kind of thing, like how are you going to do this work? What capabilities and capacities do you have? A lot of technical things that certainly are beyond my legal knowledge, but things to talk about there in terms of how you can do the work that's going to be requested, this plugging work. And then sort of support requirements is if you're going to need anything back from the state, and of course the state is saying that, you know, they're not sure what assistance they'll be able to provide, which I don't think that's really too strange. I assume that's pretty standard as well. And then conflict of interest statement, of whether anybody, the offeror, which is again, you all sort of the applicant, any people that may work on the project have a possible conflict of interest. And the example given is if you are also employed by the state of Ohio in some other capacity, that could be a potential conflict of interest and could potentially disqualify you depending on the type of work, depending on the type of conflict that you had. And again, the state reserves the right to evaluate those conflicts of interest and determine if they're going to be not be able to be overcome. All right, so a couple other things. I'd say part number 13 is the most important. That's where you put the payment address where you want the money to come to when you've completed the work, right? So make sure you fill that out. If you don't fill anything else out, that's the most important thing to fill out. But the payment address is in there. Again, I put that in there just to kind of make it a little bit, make it the best joke I possibly can about a large government contract, but also just to have it in there just to say, look, this isn't rocket science, guys. You know, you fill it out, you got to put your payment address in. You know, I mean, that takes a few paragraphs of work to just read through that and fill it out, but it's not that hard to do. And then again, of course, some other things that are relevant here, this contract performance number 14. And you can see it's a little form there, and it's hard to read, but basically just say that you've completed your contracts in the past, and you sort of state back to the state that you can that you haven't had any issues like with any contracts that you've been involved in the past, that you weren't subject of a government action, those types of things. So we see that a lot of times as attorneys when people apply for the bar and they list us as references, and they're like, have you worked with this person? Have they ever been disciplined in the past? And then if any of the answers to those are yes, then you have this lengthy form you have to fill out. So, but you can if you answer any of those, you know, in the negative, if you will, then you can fill out some information as to why that may have happened. So even that isn't something that should be a non-starter. You can work through those issues if you've had a contract issue in the past or something like that. The state does let you explain why that's happened, but that's part of the form as well. Then you have your W-9 form that you have to give them, supplier registration. Again, if you have contractors working for you or independent contractors, you need to provide all that information as well. And then you have to be registered as a supplier with the state of Ohio through the website there. So that's another part of what you have to do. And again, all of this stuff is pretty basic. There's nothing in there that can't be easily put together, but it does take a little bit of time to gather that information in your internal records and work through that. But if you have some administrative support or some administrative help in your shop, hopefully those folks will be able to pull a lot of this information together for you and just kind of work through it, and then hopefully you can just kind of check back through, again, go through this lengthy document and see if you've met all the requirements as you start to fill it out. So those are some of the things I had to talk about. I think we're going to turn it over to Tony, and I'll pass the clicker along. He's going to start with the staffing plan.
Well, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. We're going to start off with the staffing plan, and I'm going to risk sounding a little bit like a broken record because this contract, well, when you first print it out, it does look daunting. It's 80-some pages long, small font, but once you actually get into the contract, to the meat and bones of the contract, it's a very doable contract. I think these guys laid it out very nicely that it is, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do again, and in case you forgot it the first 2 times, I'm going to tell you a 3rd time what I'm going to do and how I'm going to do it. So the staffing plan. The offeror must provide a staffing plan that identifies all key personnel required to do the project, and 2, outlines the responsibilities on the project, the individual's responsibilities. The staffing plan should be consistent with what Tim talked about in the work plan, Section 8. The state evaluates this proposal based upon a scoring mechanism, and this scoring mechanism comprises a technical score and a cost score. The personnel that you choose play a key role in obtaining your technical score because it's their experience and their know-how that's going to merit points. So the state really wants to do is make sure that your team has the required experience and know-how to complete the operation. The plan must also have a matrix of matching each key member to the staffing requirements in the RFP, a contingency plan that shows the ability to add additional staff to ensure that you're meeting the project's due date, a discussion of the offeror's ability to provide qualified replacement personnel, and to provide a statement and chart that include the time and commitment of the following people. The proposed work team, and that chart must also include the project manager and any other work-related issues that the project manager might be doing during the term of the contract. So if he's going to be pulled off of the project to do other areas, you're going to want to identify what he's going to be doing, how much time is he going to spend on work site, how much time is required for him off of work site and on other projects. They're going to want to know, because there must be some sort of statement indicating to what extent the project manager may be used for other projects during the term of the contract. The evaluation committee may reject any proposal that commits the project manager to other work during the term of the contract. They do reserve that right. And then, next, personnel profile summary. In the RFP, the offer candidate forms are attachments 7A, B, and C. And once again, very duplicative. Tim's already talked about this. It's the same information that you've gathered for the other sections. You're going to find out from section to section that you'll be using this information. So if you do have great administrative staff who can aid you in preparing this, that will help immensely. The offer must use the forms and fill them out completely. The forms must either be filled out electronically or typewritten. Just to give you a few notes, the forms can be electronically recreated, but they must mirror the original forms in the RFP. Failure to create the forms accurately may lead to a rejection of the proposal. So, to begin with, attachment 7A, the offeror's candidates reference. And this to begin with, each candidate should have 3 prior projects. The form provides for 3 prior projects. If less than 3 projects are listed, the offeror must provide information as to why there are less than 3. The state may disqualify the proposal if there's less than 3. That's going to have the candidate's name and their required contact information for the relevant projects. That must be filled out completely. Failure to fill out this form completely may result in the state not including the reference experience in the evaluation process. The dates of the experience, this is the technical dates on the job and the descriptions of their services that they've provided in the past. Once again, a lot of repeat information. Next, attachment 7B, education and training. This is the section where you would attach any of your work members' pertinent licenses, certificates, education, diplomas, etc. And attachment 7C, the candidate experience requirement. If any candidate does not meet the requirements for the position the candidate has been proposed to fill, the offer's proposal may be rejected as non-responsive. This was talked a little bit about earlier, the affirmative action plan, and there are the links. I went around on the web page and played with it. It's fairly straightforward, pretty easy and user-friendly. An acceptable plan shall include language regarding the protected class of race, color, religion, sex, national origin, disability, that's 40 years old, 40 years of age or older, military status, veteran status, or any other protected class covered by local, state, and federal law. And I pulled that right from the website. I found the website, too, like I said, to be very helpful and user-friendly. The website also gives additional information regarding potentially unacceptable plans, and also contains some helpful videos in case you run into any issues getting your plan accepted. Note that upon the submission of the proposal of the RFP, copies of either the approved affirmative action plan or an affidavit attesting that you've completed one and it's pending approval must be attached to the RFP. Next is the assumptions and cost summary form. As stated earlier, there's a technical side to the equation of the evaluation score that's given a set amount, and there's a formula that also represents how you're scored to determine your cost points. And that formula actually is the lowest offerer's points divided by the offerer's cost times by the maximum available points. In this method, the lowest proposed of all the RFPs, the lowest proposed cost will receive the highest amount of points, and everyone else will be prorated from that cost. The cost proposals are submitted separately from the technical proposals. The assumption, the offeror must, if there's any assumptions that you make in your cost proposal, you, as the offeror, must provide the state any and all assumptions that you used in preparing the proposal. Furthermore, the state may also provide the state does provide assumptions within the proposal, and that's in the cost summary form and in the hypothetical. Attachment 11 has a fairly detailed hypothetical site specific orphan well scope of work project, and it gets its multitude of pages. The hypothetical contains a very comprehensive fact pattern, and it has sections such as project description, general scope of work, general conditions, general specifications, sequence of work, plugging plan, and a detailed specifications plan. In order to fill out your form, your cost summary form, what is very nice is that all you have to do is insert your unit price. I know you really can't see that, but you just have to insert there's several line items on the cost summary form, such as mobilization, fluid disposal, logging, Class A cement for surface casing, as well as for plugging. So the state actually takes the guesswork of the quantities out of, the state gives you the quantities that you need for the cost summary form. They want to see what your cost is going to be, your unit cost. So all you have to do is insert a unit price, times it by the appropriate quantity that is provided, if applicable, and then you come up with a separate line item total. And then you total all those up, and you submit your attachment 9, and that will give the basis for the, I believe it's 50 points that can be awarded for the cost proposal. I think we're on to the Q&A part. Or any?
Yeah, and I wanted to mention one thing. I talked about insurance. A related topic is performance security. As probably most of you know, for a traditional government project, the offeror, and then if the offeror is awarded the contract, has to put up a payment and performance bond for 100% of the value of the contract. I did not see that requirement in here, and I may be corrected by the division, but that is not an express requirement that we found. But the alternative to that, and I think this is important, the state may require, in terms of financial ability to perform, audited financial statements over the past 3 years. So that's a term to be aware of, or a possibility to be aware of. But the fact that a performance bond for 100% of the value of the contract is not required is a fundamental difference as compared to other contracts.
I yield the remainder of my time to Mr. Hammond.
Gentlemen, I appreciate running through all of that. Before we get to a Q&A session, we're going to be joined up here. Jason Simmerman is going to come up and have a seat with us. Jason Simmerman is the Orphan Well Engineering Manager at the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. He plays a key role in the Orphan Well plugging program. Jason wanted to come up, just say a couple of words to the group, talk about maybe some different opportunities for our membership for plugging wells. So Jason, thank you for being here. After he's completed his time, we will have a Q&A session. There will be microphones roaming, Mike Chazzy over here, Brad Miller over here. If you have a hand, they'll get to you as soon as they can. And this panel will be here to answer questions as best their ability. So Jason, thanks for being here.
Thank you. Just click here. Well, I'll just start out by thanking all these gentlemen up here for doing this. This is the part that we as a division cannot do as far as going through this document, and we really appreciate both OOGA and their time to do this. I think it's something that can not only be used today, but in the future when we do future RFPs. I think this would be a really good cheat sheet for those people that step up to the table. We do have Gene and Bob here with myself today. If you guys have any questions or any interest, just feel free to get us afterwards if your questions aren't answered or if you want to have more details on how to get involved. We currently have 20 contractors that are active in the program. We have 29 that are registered through this process, so we do know that it can be done and it does work. In calendar year 2019, we awarded 200 wells to our current contractors, and they plugged 92 of those in that calendar year. They typically have a year to do that work, so that's some of the lag that you see, but we also need additional contractors to get in the program and do this work. We recently posted an additional RFP that closed the 1st of February. DAS is in the process of working through those applications. We've done our part. The division does the technical review on each one of these. It's going very well. We had 26 people that actually submitted. We had over 80 people come to a meeting with interest. So the interest is definitely there for the program, and we're excited to continue to grow. So some people may say, I don't want to go through this process. How can I still get involved? I would say there's really two paths for those people. They talked about our subcontractors up here earlier. There is that opportunity for you to get involved if you don't want to do all the work or you don't want to go through the process as a subcontractor. Many of our people need that additional work. And each one of our contractors seem to have a different business model. Some do very small portions of the work themselves and others do it all. But there is that opportunity there. If you have that interest, feel free to email me and I can get you the list of our current contractors so you could maybe reach out and network with those people. The second program is the law that we have for our orphan program also allows for the landowner pass-through program. That's a program that was ran in the past. It had some issues. The House Bill 225 changed some of the law that was associated with it. And we're getting ready to roll that program back out. The point of the program is that in the traditional program that these guys have talked about today, that we use the DAS contract for, those are typically our high priority wells. So the landowner pass-through program is in place for those landowners that maybe they have a low priority well. It's not leaking, it's not causing any significant environmental hazard, but they still want to get that well plugged. They can connect with a contractor and do some of that upfront legwork themselves and establish that contract and plug those wells. I see faces in the room that I know used this program in the past, and hopefully we'll use it here in the future. Some of the differences between that and the traditional program are that the landowner actually selects the contractor, and they work together with a contract between them that's not between the division as an actual party. One of the problems before is that there was some tax issues related to that. When the law changed here recently, it removed that tax issue where we as the division, once we've agreed to a fixed price for that contract, we pay the contractor directly rather than to the landowner. The way the law was written previously, we paid the landowner and the landowner paid the contractor, and that obviously was not the best method for that to be done. Just one more slide here on how the program works. So we're required to have the Technical Advisory Council approve the application for this program. We recently did that. They approved it. We've got that ready to go. Other than that, you need a contract and you need your cost for the division to review. Once we've reviewed that along with your plugging plan as far as how you're going to plug that well per the law, we would issue a plugging permit along with the approved application, and then the team of the contractor and landowner can go to work. So we have those documents near finalization, and we plan to post all those to our website very soon. If you're interested in it, once again, contact us, or if you just Google Orphan Well Program and go to our website, you'll soon be able to see all those documents that are required loaded up. And we've put together a pretty extensive instruction as well that we're going to post there for people to understand, specifically landowners, of how to get through this process. So that's all we have today for the division, but I'm happy to help answer any questions during the Q&A.
Great. Thank you, Jason. So Q&A portion, I know we went through a lot. However, I also know that I've got people in this room who are in this program and are bidding. I also know there are probably people in the room that have some challenges in getting into the program and becoming a preferred vendor. So now is a great opportunity to ask. And while folks continue to think, I will, Jason, I'm sorry, but I'm going to ask you one question. When you go through the landowner pass-through entity, and I remember the change in House Bill 225 that we did not make it a taxing event, there'll be information on your website, and I don't know if you've worked with the Farm Bureau, but having the law is great, having information on your website is great, but what can the state do, or do you plan on doing to promote that so landowners are aware of it, and then can obviously work through that pass-through entity with the industry?
Yeah, there's definitely some agencies out there that can help us with this, and we would plan to work with the Farm Bureau. That's something that we've done in the past where we've held meetings for our program as a whole, the Orphan Well program, and we would definitely intend to do that with those agencies again. And then the OSU Extension. We find that our landowners are very receptive to OSU Extension because they're kind of that middle ground of they're not an operator, they're not a regulator, they really trust those people. We meet with OSU Extension on a monthly basis as a division and just kind of update where the Utica Shale is, where the Orphan Well program is, any other things that are going on. And we've even reached out to then some of the more local OSU extensions recently and talked about the Orphan Well program and presented different things about the program, where it's headed. So we'll definitely go that direction.
Okay, that's great. And so they're obviously then communicating this stuff out to their distribution list, membership, whatever you might want to call them. That's helpful. I appreciate that. Any questions I know Jason can only answer so many questions as it relates to the contract, but with any of our other panelists,
we have our first question right here.
Questions?
Thank you, guys. I have two questions, one for the attorneys and then one for Jason. The first, I'll ask them both and then cede the mic. The first for the attorneys is, what is the duration of the warranties in the contract? And then second for Jason, what is the state's average cost that you're seeing for these abandoned well plugging jobs? Thank you.
For the warranty, the express warranty is 1 year. The only caveat to that is that under Ohio law, there are potential for implied warranty claims. Generally, there's a cap. It's called the statute of repose, a 10-year on the outside of any type of claim. But there's certainly shorter time periods for implied warranties and similar claims. But the express warranty is 1 year.
Yeah, so to the second question there, Actually, with the change in the law, we have to submit a report to the TAC quarterly and then a yearly report to the legislature, and I've been working on those numbers here recently. And for last year, when we awarded 200 wells, the awarded cost average was $96,000 for our wells. When I went back in and looked at the numbers for the wells that were actually plugged, which were the 92 that were plugged last year, they averaged at 69. So the difference there is that the division does incorporate a contingency amount for our contractors in each contract, so that as things that are unexpected come up, we're able to account for those.
Thanks. Any other questions?
That's for Jason. What's that?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
That's for Jason. Of the 200 that you did in 2019, where were they located in Ohio?
They were actually located all over the state. We have a schedule that we can show or put out there. The division, if you go to our Orphan Well program website and go to scopes of work, at the very top of that, there's 2 documents there, one for 2019 and one for 2020, which those are our fiscal years. So the 2019 is what we would have done through last June, and then 2020 is what we're working on this year through this June, and it shows where each of our projects are that are awarded.
Gentleman back here. Thank you. If funding wasn't a limitation, how many wells do you think you could plug a year? What's the max you could go to?
Well, we want to keep growing. I guess the reason we're here today is contractor participation. I said before that we awarded 200 wells and we plugged 92. And I also said that we have 20 people that are currently active, and we have 26 that have applied through this most recent RFP. So we have the ability now to maybe double our production in the next year or so if we can all work together and get these people awarded. So I don't want to put a limit on what we can do. I want to continue to grow. There's definitely the need, the funds are there, and the division has that will.
Are engineering and design fees included on the RFPs, or are they procured separately?
So the division has a team of engineers and geologists and inspectors in-house, and we put each scope of work together in-house. So if you go to our website and look at the scopes of work, those are all developed by our internal team. And so that would be reported in our TAC report as part of our indirect costs, is where you would see those.
Any other? Right here, Mike.
When will there be another availability to apply to be a preferred contractor?
So that's something that we push on DAS to do more and more. It does take them a while to process through it. At a minimum, it would be late this fall. If we can get one established before then, we will continue to try to get them to do that.
Yes, a question I was thinking about was, I have heard there are out-of-state contractors that do come in and get the bids from time to time. Do you have a breakdown on how many in-state traditional contractors have been awarded, maybe a percentage-wise, the contracts for the last couple of years or versus the out-of-state? And maybe even the magnitude of the money, of how much was spent on each, if you know.
I have not broke that down. I will say that when we initially, our program was more just a vision of Ohio, and we had our local guys that are sitting in this room from Ohio that got established first. And as we've issued more RFPs and the program has grown with funding, we've gotten a more of a national look. I did do a quick count when we got the 26 proposals here recently. They were operators from 8 different states, more than one from some of those states. So we are getting that national exposure now, but I don't have specific numbers to your question right at the moment.
We have another question over here.
Good morning, guys. Thank you for your time. Of the 26 vendors that applied, when are they going to know whether or not they've been approved or not?
So as I said a little bit ago, Gene and Bob and myself, we've done our part with DAS where we've scored that technical part that was explained here today. DAS has to go through and basically make sure each one of those 18 pieces is in place so that they have the proper insurance, affirmative action, all that. They're in the process of that right now. I call them on a weekly basis and push them for that. I have not gotten a date. I would assume that it would be here very soon. The one thing I have got them to commit to is when they do this, there'll be some people that all their paperwork is in place, and then there'll be other people that need to submit some additional paperwork. And they have agreed that they'll do 2 addendums to the contract at a minimum, where they immediately qualify the persons that have all their paperwork in place with this first submittal. And if someone has to go back and resubmit their insurance or something like that, there'll be a second addendum to qualify those people.
Any other questions? Seeing none. All right, very good. Well, I thank everybody for their time. Jason, thanks for being here. You know, this association led the charge on increasing the amount of money that ODNR has to spend annually on plugging wells. I know that folks see some challenges and obstacles out there. It is my hope that this was helpful, but by no means are we expecting that this was the magic answer to everything that you're facing. I look at this as a partnership between the industry and ODNR in the state, and we need to do what we can to help them meet statutory requirements to plug wells. And by plugging wells, we're doing something good for the environment. We can create or retain jobs and allow ODNR to spend the money in the oil and gas well fund per its statutory purpose. And all 3 of those things are very important to this association in the industry. To Tim, Rick, Tony, thanks for all your time on preparing for this panel. I hope it was helpful to everybody. So thank you very much.
All right. Well, some of you may say that's dry stuff, but that's what makes the industry move. It's the service work that's doing the environmental remediation and helping the industry move forward. So thank you to the panel and thank you to Matt. That concludes the general business session for today. We will have 2 breakout sessions, one led by the Safety Committee, which is hosting a session on trends in site security, which will interest many of you, including those in the pipeline business, as well as the Environmental Committee is hosting a conversation about a review of regulatory issues in both upstream and downstream activities. After the breakouts, which will last about an hour, I invite you to come back for lunch and the keynote speaker who is with the Manhattan Institute. His name is Mark Mills. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for having me today.